Michael Chandler moving on from Conor McGregor, calling out Nate Diaz. Now, here's the question. Is this a marketing play by Michael Chandler, who, over a brief period of time right in front of our eyes, has become very good at things like that? Or does Chandler have some inside information that we don't have? And let me just tell you the brief difference. When I talk about a marketing play, what I'm talking about is Chandler staying the course. Chandler's going nowhere else. He's fully locked on Conor McGregor. This is just a way to add attention and strengthen, right? Saying I don't want it is just a way. You ever meet the girl where the guy sits her down and goes, I'm not interested in taking advantage of you like so many other people, but that's just his scumbag way of being able to take advantage. Are you with me on that? So here's the question. Is that what Chandler's doing? Is Chandler fully locked on McGregor? And his way of getting the fight is by acting like he wants a different fight? Or does he know something? Well, how about option C? I don't think these guys are on the same page. I don't think they've ever been. I'm good with that and I respect that. I just haven't seen a lot of it. In all fairness, what I'm talking about is the second floor of the UFC knows information, but they have not given it to both guys. And generally, over time, it all comes out. And it has always felt like, because here you got Chandler going anywhere, anytime. Hey, don't get hung up on weight classes. I know it's been discussed 3 rounds, 5 rounds, couldn't possibly care less. But it's discussed Fight Island to T-Mobile. I am in. And he has been completely consistent with that. You then had a period of time with Conor McGregor where he was saying, I too am in. And Conor was even pulling spoofs because he couldn't get what he wanted through the organization. And you had the organization sitting back and telling both of them, don't listen to either guy. We'll let you know when that fight's going to be. Like, these three have never been on the same page. There was an announcement. I remember where I was. I was with my partner Ryan in California driving a Uber. We're in the back of an Uber headed to Fedor's retirement fight against Bader. How's that for knowing where I was? When the announcement comes down, it's going to be McGregor versus Chandler, and they're going to do the Ultimate Fighter. I remember where I was, and that whole announcement ended, and there was a reporter who could get a hold of all of them. So when the whole thing ended, he calls Conor and asks, what weight will this fight be? That detail was left out. He gets a number. He calls Chandler, what weight will this fight be? He gets a number. He calls Dana. He gets a number. They don't know that they've all called each other. They all three gave the reporter a different number. I literally remember where I was. And I remember turning to Ryan and said, we don't have a fight. We pulled a camera out. We made a YouTube video on it and sent it to you guys. And I told you guys right there on the day this fight got announced, this fight is not planning to happen. That was the word I used. I didn't say it wasn't going to happen or it can't happen. I said they're not planning this fight to happen. Whoa, Chael, how could you say such a thing? There was just a press conference because they don't have a weight class. That is step number 1. There has never been a fight where that is not, what weight are we fighting at? Right away. What weight are we fighting at is more important to the fighter than how much money are we fighting for. Are you aware of that? Because very few are. Over 95% of the fighters that retire from this sport, there's not an amount of money you could give them to get them back. You're looking at the wrong number. Khabib stopped at 29-0, and there was a big old bag for him. They're looking at the wrong number. They didn't have to change anything. They had to make it 170 pounds. He would have done the fight. And I'm just sharing for you, when we find out that Conor, Chandler, and Dana do not have an agreed upon weight class, I knew we didn't have a fight. At least not then. We had no fight planned. And what is the difference? Well, and on sale, that's the difference. What's the difference? Well, a venue. That's the difference. Why do you need an on sale and a venue? Because then you have a date. That's why. That's why. If you don't have a weight class, then you don't have a venue. And you don't have any kind of a marketing plan. You have none of the steps moving in that direction if you have not yet agreed on a weight class. This was my only point. So one and only point I was bringing to you, but I brought it to you in that exact moment when we're being told that we had a match. So now it matters if Chandler has some kind of inside information that Conor's not coming back. I'll insert myself again because I remember where I was. As soon as International Fight Weekend, June 29th, started to get a little bit shaky, I was in the back of a car in Brazil. And I happened to be with my partner Ryan again, and we happened to get out of camera. And I told you right then, if these rumors are true and the fight between Chandler and Conor is off on June 29th, you never need to revisit this conversation. That will never be rebooked. If Conor does not show up on June 29th, it is the same as announcing he's retired. And that's a very big statement. And if I was to tell you in fairness, I'm not completely bullish on that, but I know I'm a lot closer in that direction. Like, let's say Conor was to fight again and it wasn't MMA and it wasn't in the UFC. Okay, great. Then I win. For the practical purposes that we were speaking of. But moreover, if Conor is to fight again, he will not be booked against Michael Chandler, which means Michael Chandler needs to move on. Yeah, absolutely. And Chandler has moved on now to Nathan Diaz, which is very interesting because that would be at 170 pounds. So I do believe that Chandler now kind of likes the idea of the lifestyle of having a few more calories while he's training, I think. I mean, it was the one commonality. And he also went after Nate in a situation for the Sphere, which we have been told as an audience has a main event. We've even been told what that main event is. We've even been told what the co-main event is. So Chandler to call out Nate for the Sphere, unless he has information that one of those two title fights is not going to happen, was a little bit of a sucker's move, because he's not getting Nate Diaz jerking the curtain for a pay-per-view spot. Which is what made me think Chandler, who's very good at this, knows he's not going to be doing that. Knows he's not going to be doing Nate, who's not even under contract, has to go through a return into the testing pool, of which is a rule that nobody knows, but if we were to defer to the old rule of USADA, would take 6 months, which means Chandler completely wasted his breath. Oh, and by the way, called somebody else out in the wake of us all believing he might be standing opposite Islam. Now, Chandler's too good at this. Chandler did not throw one away. Chandler has a plan. And Chandler has a plan because he believes he knows something that the rest of us have not yet been told. And the question is not only, what does he know? The question is also what he believes he knows. Is he right?